Guys, it's Jacob from Stringbuzz here, stringbuzzworld.org being the music journalism site, links are in the description down below. And we have a brand new song review for you today, and it's the latest track by Arcade Fire, and that's Signs of Life. So I'm going to refer to the original article as I usually do for these videos, so I hope you enjoy. Now, going into this track, it's fair to say that the feedback to this single in particular, or rather on the last two singles by this group, are a little bit mixed, I guess. Critically, they aren't having the best time of things, and I'm putting that fairly lightly, and the fan response is also incredibly divisive, as I seem to find anyway, judging by the comment sections anyway. I'm not really invested in this group though, and I've never really followed them simply because I haven't come across many of their tracks in the past. I've never really been a devout follower, but I thought Creature Comfort was a pretty neat single really, so I'm waiting to hear what all the fuss is really about. So shall we see what I thought of this brand new track? Well, first things first, it's not the worst song ever, and it's nowhere near as bad as what many fans and critics are trying to say it is. That's just fear-mongering in my opinion, and sure, I wouldn't call it good. It's kind of boring, it's very plain, but those who are acting like this is a musical atrocity really ought to listen to Future's new track, maybe anything Fifth Harmony have released since their inception. I mean, it's a very plain song, it is. It's slightly as well, it's this sort of slightly stagnant disco track, and whilst it is a little bit repetitive, I guess, and lacks any variation as well, it's not the be-all and end-all of music itself, which you'd think it was judging by the comment section. It's just a generic disco track really, nothing offensive I guess. Now that disclaimer is sort of out the way, I just want to tell you basically that the track is fine, it's just fine, it's functional at best really, and it's definitely a contrast to what we last heard in Creature Comfort, and I don't necessarily mean that in a good way. Production-wise, when it comes to the production cycle of this track, I think it was fairly decent. I think the producers did a fairly decent job. I loved how raw and organic the instrumentation has been left here. I thought the bass has this thick and twangy tone, filling the low ground really well, whilst also being the main focus point and drive for this song. It did that job really well. I thought the percussion was very background worthy and definitely needed to cut into that foreground more with the snare in particular, since it just lacked more and more impact with each passing bar, which is never a good thing, and the cymbals didn't really glisten in that high ground, did they? I actually like the decorative synths in this track and the electronic elements that were incorporated within this song, since they just added a bit of diversity, I guess, into it, what is quite an interesting texture, and they never really dwarfed the organic instrumentation either. And sure, it was sort of thin surface level type of stuff, but that was enough for me really. The vocals are a little bit plain though, but I think that's more melodically based and musicality based rather than to do with the production cycle. So again, this production cycle's a fairly decent one. When it comes to the musicality of this track, it is very static and it lacks any variation at all. Once you've heard the first 4 bars or so, with the exception of the odd synth layer being added, the track never actually changes and instead just loops in on itself over and over again, and that does get very boring in my opinion. The vocal performance is very monotonous and very basic, I thought, and I'm surprised the group decided to write such a flat vocal melody over what could have been a funky track. The bass line is functional in my opinion, even though it is the focus point. It's not really that catchy, and it's not really funky enough to carry an out-and-out funk disco track like this, especially when you compare it to the modern day giants and frontrunners of this disco movement, when you think of people like Daft Punk and how they've sort of reimagined it, and even Jamiroquai on their latest album. And in all honesty, it's just average in every other department really, and that might be why so many people dislike it. There are no glaring flaws per se, but for 4.5 minutes nothing really happens either. Lyrically, and this might be the biggest no-no, the track is dreadful, and it treats its one and only dull line like it's some form of vocal ostinato, which made no sense to me whatsoever. It's monotonous, it's slightly pretentious I guess, and just lumbering I guess, since it also feels very clunky and very unnecessary to be repeated this much. This paired with the poor vocal melodies of course that aren't very catchy equates to what is a really lousy vocal outing, and I think the vocals did let this track down a lot because it really wouldn't have been that bad otherwise. So all in all, the song is bang average. It's a bang average sort of disco type track, generic disco track, nothing more, nothing less. So I gave it a G rating of 5 out of 10, which is just completely average. So if you like this video, then please leave a like, subscribe to see more, and I'll see you around next time. Bye bye.